All right, and we are live. So, good evening, everyone. Um, Looking right now and not seeing any viewers yet. This is Malenfant, so
Okay.
we'll give it another second
Mm-hmm.
before we kick into this. There we go. So, good evening, folks. My name is Mr. Erlenwein, Mark Erlenwein, Principal Staten Island Tech, and I am joined by.
Barbara Malenfant, the Parent Coordinator.
We want to thank all of our new families for taking the time to join us tonight. We wanted to do this especially for you, our new families, our new ninth grade, and some of our 10th grade families who are newer to the Staten Island Tech community. And I thank the many of you who sent questions in ahead of time. I've curated those questions and I have slides prepared to address the answers to those questions. So I thank you in advance. You'll see at the bottom of the screen, as I'm presenting right now with Mrs. Malenfant, just a little bit of a message that there will be a Q&A session at the conclusion of the main presentation. So if there's any questions specifically that you want to hear us address or answer, that'll be the time to do so. So you can throw those questions right into the comment section to the right of the presentation screen that you're watching right now. In addition, just to throw some other information up on there, my email address, and this is Malenfant's email address, is also scrolling at the bottom in case you need to reach out to us for any reason. And of course, as soon as this event is over this evening, the entire recording will be immediately available to watch on demand. If you or another family member just want to watch this over again or watch it at a later time, which is why we do this. As I've been doing after each of these recorded meetings, I'll be posting the actual recording onto the Staten Island Tech landing page on the website. So it'll be easily referenced whenever you may want to come back to view that information. So, but with that being said, I think we're just going to just jump right into this. And just want you to understand one of the primary reasons why Mrs. Malenfant and I wanted to do this is because knowing that so many of you are new to the Staten Island Tech community, and in some cases, some of you are returning. You have another child who attended here in the past. But what's been really true about our school, especially over the past 10 years, is the school has gone through a really great transformation. We've spent an immense amount of time working as a school community to address the things that our students and our families have said have been the pain points along their way, whether it be other schools, our school, and really work to continuously revamp and improve and evolve the student experience. So what your children are experiencing from here on in is the direct result of a lot of hard work and a deep look at the quality of life of our students in the building and outside of the building, as well as our families. So we thought it would be really important to spend some time just highlighting what some of those major shifts have been, so you're aware of where we've come from. I think that's really important so you can appreciate some of the things that are happening in our school. There's going to be many things that are going to be very new to you and your child. Uh, we've truly reimagined what the high school process feels like, is like, uh, down to the instructional component, what happens in and outside of the classroom, the extracurricular component, and especially the assessment component, how grades are handled, how students respond to grades, and how families respond to grades. And I hope you'll be not only surprised, but enlightened and encouraged by a lot of these shifts that we've made. Because all the shifts have been made and all the things that we've been thinking about and implementing are always aimed at putting the experience and the situation in favor of the student. Creating an academic experience that puts things always in favor of the students first. So just hang on for this quick little ride down memory lane. And I think it's important to start with a personal story. I think a personal story really connects the best. And being an alumnus of Staten Island Tech, and so this is my 30th year, 30 years ago, since I graduated from Staten Island Tech in 1992. So I very much consider myself, I am an alumnus of the school and a product of the school, and remember what it was like to be that student 30 years ago. And to some degree, I'm still that student. I'm still that same person who makes some of the same mistakes our students make. He gets hung up on some of the same things our students get hung up on. That idea of wanting to achieve at the highest, that perfectionism that sometimes creeps into the process, where things have to be absolutely perfect, not knowing when to say no and saying yes to everything that comes my way or so. Um, and just some of the things that are sometimes looked at as rewards for hard work come with a price sometimes, and quality of life and physical and mental health are some of the first things to go along that way as a byproduct of success. So there's a really amazing side to success, and the part of it we've spent a lot of time analyzing and thinking about is what is some of the fallout? What's the negative side that's a byproduct of success? So I wanted to share, a personal story with you. So going back to 2013, I know the date exactly, when I first became principal. I was doing a lot of different things, trying to be a principal, husband, a father, a son, being a caretaker for my mom who was in the hospital at the time, just trying to do all these different things and be the principal of a school. After spending probably about 15 to 17 years in that school, now serving as the principal. And what happened, the culmination of all that is I wound up landing in the hospital. And the interesting part about that moment is when I landed in the hospital, because of all this stress just accumulating. The next morning when I woke up, I didn't have my glasses on, and I'm looking at my feet, and surrounding me is all these blue and white coats, and clearly doctors and nurses in their scrubs and their jackets. And I put my glasses on, and as the picture became clearer, I started recognizing all the faces of all these caretakers, so these doctors and nurses who I guess recognized me. They saw my name on the hospital board, and they came to check on me. And as I'm looking at all those names, I recalled and remembered each of their individual stories and pathways when once upon a time they were students at Staten Island Tech. And I couldn't help but remember and not forget some of the sacrifices that they made to achieve their goal of becoming a doctor or a healthcare professional. And in some cases, I remember some of the horror stories and the sacrifices that they made at the cost of their own health and their own social emotional well-being, their own mental health, their own physical health, to get to that same point. And then here I was, this at the time, this 30 some odd year old new principal, still still fumbling and falling prey to some of the negative repercussions of success. I still hadn't figured out how to manage it all. I still didn't know how to say no to certain things versus yes to everything. So I just wanted to start there and just kind of acknowledge a real simple fact, that as Staten Island Tech students, and being an alum, one thing that's true about techies, and this is the blessing and sometimes the curse of a techie. Uh, Techie is an acronym for thinks excellence can happen in everything. And in some cases, thinks excellence should happen in everything. And it can't always be that way. A uh, there's a positive to that, and then sometimes there's a negative to that. And we want this to be true. We want it to be true that excellence can happen in everything, but we have to do it safer. We have to do it smarter. We can work smarter versus harder in some cases. So that's what we've been trying to model. What I try to model with the faculty and staff, so they model it for the students, and they change the academic experience for our students, and, with that mindset that it doesn't have to be like that traditional school experience that many of us know and felt along the way in our own childhood. So one thing I can say about our school is the five faces of Staten Island Tech. The tech experience has evolved. As our logo has evolved, the tech experience has evolved over all these years. So I do want to spend some time sharing with you some of the things that we've done to make the quality of life experience that much better. And before I do that, I just want to give Mrs. Malenfant a quick chance just to kind of chime in. And Mrs. Malenfant, not only being our parent coordinator, but also being a former PTA president and someone who had her own child, Kyle, attend Staten Island Tech. Mrs. Malenfant, you want to share a quick anecdote?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And welcome everyone that's here tonight to hear this really important message. My quick thing is, yes, my son graduated actually 2003, so a lot of years ago, and the school has evolved greatly since then. And Mr. Erlenwein will talk about that. Um, and one of just the little note that I will put to that is when my son came to Staten Island Tech, he had left eighth grade as valedictorian. And when he came to Tech, his grades dropped tremendously, and as did my jaw. and and I have to say, not too many people helped me through that, and I was fine with that because I didn't know any different. But I think the message tonight in Parenting 101 at Staten Island Tech is that, yeah, be ready for a change, especially from junior high to high school. I call it percolating hormones or whatever change is going on in your child that may not make sense. And that's okay. We're all here together to help you through it. And certainly, it's never a bother, never ever a bother to contact me or any of the staff, of course, but particularly myself as your parent coordinator to help you through and muddle through some of the inquiries and strange things that might be happening, because we have been there and done that, so to speak. Yeah, so I came to Tech in 1999 when my son started, and as Mr. Erlenwein said, 3 years as PTA president, became parent coordinator in 2003, and here I am today, almost 20 years later. So I look forward to hopefully one day meeting you. I can't see any of you right now, but I hope that one day, and that we can have in-school meetings and to at least be able to greet you at the door when you come in, perhaps to pick up your child. So lots to hear tonight. There's a lot. We could probably talk for hours, Mr. Erlenwein and I, about things about the school, but let me hand it back over to Mr. Erlenwein so he can carry on and inform you of the many great things that are happening around our campus.
Thank you, Barbara. So well said. So this presentation that you see up on the screen next to Barbara, Ted, and my head is it's a presentation I gave at Staten Island Tech. We had one of the very, very early TEDx events, TED Talk event at Staten Island Tech a few years ago, in which I adopted some of the stories and the things that we've done as a school community in a presentation I called My Mindful Journey. So what's wonderful about many of the things I'm going to talk about this evening is all these ideas and change, opportunities for change that have happened in the past 10 years is the byproduct of student and parent voice and faculty voice. So your voice, your ideas do matter. We have a school leadership team once a month. We have town halls with the students once a month. And the ideas that get curated from those meetings is what turns into the Staten Island Tech experience. And one of those things that early on has been was a growing calling from our students, because once upon a time the school day started at 7:45 a.m. So if you thought your child was getting to school early at 8 a.m., it used to be even earlier. And we do have a zero period, so zero period met even earlier than 7:45, more along the lines of To some degree, sometimes it was 7 a.m. and 6:45 a.m. So when students had asked for years, yeah, could we change and shift the start of the school day? It made total sense to do so, which is why now what you know is the start of the school day is period one starts at 8 a.m. And for some of our students who don't have a period one and start period two, that school day starts at approximately 8:41, 8:45 a.m. So things have improved, and that was something that we decided to do based upon student and parent feedback. So that does go a long way when we receive that type of information. Now, along the way, we noticed that it was a big transition, especially for eighth graders coming into ninth grade, high school, understanding that going to a specialized high school and the transition into high school is very stressful. And wouldn't it be great if students can get a head start? So many of you, approximately 85% of our current ninth graders, um, took part in our summer bridge program. So we started that 10 years ago in response to knowing that the transition was very challenging. So these are just some pictures from past summer bridge programs where we've spent time giving students the opportunity to meet their guidance counselor, take a 3-day course around the Russian language, how to do note taking, to get their computers set up, all in the interest of when their first day of school came upon them in September. It was really the third or fourth or fifth day of school if they've taken part in all the previous activities that we've offered. So this was put into place because we wanted to give our students and our families that extra bit of confidence and comfort coming into the school building. Once again, all in the spirit of trying not to add extra work. The old joke going, wonderful, you made Staten Island Tech. Now you have to go to summer school. I don't like to think of this as summer school, but more of a fun experience, giving students a 3-day orientation versus I never was a fan of the 1 hour, 2 hour orientation on the first day of school or during the summer. So a 12-hour orientation over 3 days, I think, is more meaningful and useful to our families and our students. So this is something we implemented as a result of that. Along the way, in your child's education experience, you may have noticed that in your previous schools, you'd get a report card at the conclusion of every marking period. So that would mean in the course of a full year, a fall term and a spring term, there would be 3 marking periods in the fall and 3 in the spring for a total of 6 marking periods, which would mean 6 report cards. And one of the things that we noticed with these pauses is that these pauses would create an influx of tests and quizzes and projects and assessments, and it would boil up into this moment of stress. And not to say that stress is not healthy, but it got us to start thinking about, like, why are we doing this in the first place? What was the purpose years and years ago to have a report card every couple of weeks or so? And what we realized, because sometimes you just have to step back and say, why do we do this? Um, we realized that all the grades were accessible via the cell phone or a computer platform 24/7 during the day. So you could look up your child's grades at any time during the day. So we said to ourselves, we don't need to have 6 marking periods. Matter of fact, we really just need two. We need one in the fall and one in the spring. So one of the first things that we did 10 years ago is we eliminated 4 marking periods and reduced it down to 2 marking periods, which just means you get 2 report cards, one in the end of term one, which is in January, and then one in June. Now, this year, in all honesty, with the removal of pupil path, and because we're doing things, every school is doing things a little bit differently. We are gonna have 4 marking periods. The first marking period ends in November. And it's really a progress report. So the report card that your child will be getting in November will be a paper one, paper copy. And it's really a progress report. It's not the grade that goes on the transcript. The final progress report or report card that you get in January for the first half of the year, that's the grade that goes on your transcript. So for the time being, we've kind of come back. We've come back to having this extra marking period, but eventually we're going to go back to one marking period, one report card in the fall, one in the spring. And by doing this, yeah, at that point, come February, it's in most of the technology that you're used to using for checking your child's grades will be back in hopefully full functionality, and you'll have the access that you once did to your child's grades. But wanted you to know that we purposely reduced the number of marking periods because it just doesn't make sense. If you're going to have access to your child's grades electronically, then there's really no reason for us to stop every couple of weeks and create unnecessary stress for your children. Okay, so that's one of the unique things that we've done over the years. The other thing, knowing that our students take more academic periods than students in other schools do. And what that does for our students, it gives them a competitive edge when they're applying to colleges, and also it deepens their learning. We're giving our students many unique experiences that most schools are not able to offer their student population. So understanding that in the past, there were these days where students would have multiple full period exams, we created a testing schedule that limits the number of full period exams in one day to 2. So for example, so tomorrow is Friday. So on a Friday, only the English department and the science department could give a full period exam. Whereas on Monday, it would be math and Russian, and on Tuesday, science and history. So we've been very thoughtful about making sure we rotate this on a biannual basis. So twice a year, we rotate the actual schedule. And this is all in the interest, once again, of helping our students and their families with having a quality of life where they're never walking into the building in a day and have 6 or 7 full period exams that they have to prepare for. That's not healthy and it's not necessary. So we've worked really hard to organize when the stress occurs. Knowing that stress is important and it could be healthy, but I think it has to be rationed and it has to be maintained. Ms. Malenfant, you have any commentary on some of the stuff we've talked about so far? I know from time to time you'll get some feedback from our parents and students around this topic.
Oh, yeah, the testing schedule particularly, because often parents would complain that their child would be up till 1, 2, all night studying for 3, 4, 5 exams that they knew that were coming the next day or even within a couple of days. So this has really lightened the load for a lot of the students and the parents. It makes it less stressful. Test is always stressful, but definitely the shift has been, parents are grateful that the testing schedule has been designed by this way. Yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Barbara. All right, so moving on. So something else that has come up over time, you might recall when you're in school, you'd have a fire drill. And if you might have been the unlucky one to have a fire drill during the same period you were taking a math test, you might have lost those 10 minutes to the fire drill. So let's take a look at the example on the left here. So a fire drill in the past, what would have happened is if we were going to give a fire drill during second period, we'd steal 10 minutes away from period 2. All the other periods would be the same, 41, except the third period. That's when we do announcements, PA announcements. And if you're the unlucky student to have a test during this period, you only had 31 minutes to take the test. And if you were lucky enough that the teacher remembered that there was a fire drill that day, maybe they shortened the test a little bit. So what we did to circumvent this is on a day that there's a fire drill, instead of 41-minute periods, we took 1 minute from each class, carved out the 10 minutes for the fire drill. So no student would ever be subjected to a situation where they'd lose 10 minutes for a full period assessment. So because of this, we literally have like we actually have 10 different bell schedules to accommodate the different periods that we'd have a fire drill. So once again, it's just my intent here is just to kind of demonstrate the level of which we've been thinking about this in terms of making the experience for our students fair and equitable, and to never let some of the functions and the processes that we have to do in school hurt our students or hurt their grades or impact the experience. So just another example of one of the ways we've been thinking about this. Get a lot of questions from parents. I know Barbara does as well, that how much homework can I expect in my freshman year? And quite honestly, your child should not be bogged down with homework for hours upon hours. I would say an hour to an hour and a half is a reasonable amount of time. We've worked really diligently with our faculty and staff to really think about this, like how much homework is really enough and necessary to give our students. Because let's be honest and quite frank here, like we have some of the most gifted and talented students in the country. We have a type of student that's really excellent, quite excellent and perceptive and adept to picking up the material first or second time they hear it or learning it. So how much repetition and how much practice is needed once they go home. So we've really thought about this very significantly, even more so where we've encouraged, if there's not a need to give homework, then don't. If there's a necessity to give homework, make it meaningful, make it count. Do you have to give 20 problems? Our set is 7 problems enough. And what our teachers have done is really created these very innovative ways to give our students practice through these online portals by recording themselves, solving the problems or giving explanations. So we've really put the students at an advantage by using technology and a lot of different tools to make sure students always have access to additional help and information. In addition, it's really important to us that when our children are home, especially during the breaks, so we'll have the winter recess coming up in December, we'll have the midwinter recess coming up in February, and we'll have spring break coming up in April. And it's really important to us that when you're home with your children, I don't know what you're used to in your other children, your children's other school experiences, but during these breaks, you will have assignment-free breaks. There'll be no work assigned to students over the break. If something does have to be assigned ahead of time, students will have a week before the break, during the break, or after the break to do the work. So essentially, we're giving students a week a week before the break, during the break, and after the break to do this work. So the deadline would always be, if a teacher had to give a major project, it would be due a week after they get back from the break. But we encourage our students, up to them, they can do the project before the break, during the break, or right after the break, so they can actually have a break and have this quality time with their parents. Barbara, I know you get a little some anecdotes on this from time to time. Have you seen this improve over the years?
Oh, yeah. And what you had mentioned earlier, Mr. Erlenwein, you had mentioned voice with opportunity. And the parent voice speaks loudly. And I think a lot of what you're talking about with the homework, the testing schedule, not only is the student voice loud, but the parent voice is loud because you see it at home. You let us know what's going on, so that we can see a different perspective than what we hear from the students. So, yeah, it's been your voice as parents have really influenced so much over the years and the progression of um, excellence, I guess I could say, in what's happening with your students at the school. Now, as freshmen, you don't realize, and I think that's one of Mr. Erlenwein's goal tonight, is to let you see where we've come from. Because when my son was there in 1999, certainly vastly different the way homework was done and the whole assignment and expectations. So where we've progressed to now is because of the voice of the parents and of course the students, partnering with the school, trusting us. I'll just say briefly, because I know Mr. Erlenwein wants to get back on, but I have 3 special phrases that I like to repeat, actually 4, and I'm going to just say them real quickly, which we've been talking about, the voice with opportunity, and that is your voice having multiple opportunities in the school to speak to us and let us know what it is that you see and what it is that you want. And then transparency with accountability. Well, that's what's happening right now. Tonight, we are being very transparent with you. We're very accountable, and we take that very seriously. That you have chosen us as Staten Island Tech School to entrust your children to us. So we are accountable to you. The third thing is partnership with trust. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that maybe later, partnering with us as a school and with your child, and the trust that it takes a tremendous amount of trust. And then the final one is my no parent left behind. And that is personal because I want that your voice, the communication to be clear, not left behind and wondering what the heck am I supposed to do, or where do I find out about this? How do I reach somebody? What's going on? What's, all the questions that you may have. So that's where, when you see in my signature in the emails where it says no parent left behind, that's you. I don't want to leave you behind with questions, concerns, whatever it is you have. So those are sort of my 4 little catchphrases that I operate from. And they're very meaningful to me because I take, your trust in us very seriously. So thank you for that. Okay.
Thank you, Barbara. Um, so while we're talking about academics, and I do want to just go back 1 second, actually, as I'm thinking about it. Um, if you see that your child in the 9th grade, and even some of our new 10th graders, they're staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning doing homework, and they're saying it's taking them that long to do it. I would urge you to maybe check in with us, check in with Barbara, check in with myself, because what we've come to notice, and this is understanding this very well, being somebody who works this way and does a similar thing from time to time. The idea of perfectionism and doing too much work or making sure something is absolutely perfect. We've seen students who, in what should have taken an hour and a half for them to complete, I mean, and in all truth and honesty, they were probably done with whatever they were working on or studying an hour and a half into the work, but they chose to continue refining it for another 2 hours, which prolongs the whole intent of the experience. We are not going out of our way to assign 3 to 4 hours of homework. That is not what we do. So if you start seeing that, I urge you to look closer and let us know. Let your guidance counselor know. Let us know, and we'll help guide you. Because more often than not, that's a byproduct of a very diligent student who just wants to make sure everything is perfect and right, and that is not what we're doing. That's not what we're trying to do here. So with that in mind, understanding that our students are very grade oriented, they're high achievers, so the grades matter. And we've seen it get to the point where sometimes the grades matter too much. And I have the little picture of the running person here to kind of signify the chase to points. The experience at Tech at one point became very much a point chase at a very unhealthy level. There was a moment in the time, Barbara can recall very clearly being, Barbara's office is right at the front of the building, and many a time, the stress of achieving and doing well got so bad into a feverish point that we had many students uh, having to be taken to the hospital by an ambulance because they just could not deal with all the stress. And it was not something that we were proud about. And it was something that was very concerning. And it was happening at a very high rate and very often, at a very high frequency. I'm happy today that that's something that barely ever happens. And one of the reasons for that is 7 years ago, we transitioned away from numerical grades and shifted to letter grades. And what that's allowed us to do is to take the emphasis on individual points and gaining individual points and put more of the emphasis on just achieving and learning and just letting it be about that. And when we've talked to our students about how much better it feels to get a B plus versus an 88 or an A minus versus a 91 or a 92, it stings a little bit less, but it also is closer aligned to what they're going to do in college. Just to give you another example, we've taken it even one step further. As some of you are going to learn, your child's grade on certain assignments, we've moved away from a lot of the traditional multiple choice tests and fill in the blank short answer tests to a lot of project-based learning. And along the way, your child's going to get feedback on, so for example, some of your children who are in Mr. Enrique's STEM class, they're building a robot. And the first time they get a grade on the robot, they might get, now instead of using, so this is the numerical equivalent, instead of getting the letter grade, they're going to get something, these are called mastery grade codes. They may get a not yet at first, the first time they get a grade or some feedback on their robot. And then both they don't realize, and it takes a little bit of time for them to realize it, that's not their final grade on the robot. The grade is dynamic, meaning the grade is going to change. Now, I don't mean it's an average. It's not going to be an average of multiple grades. The grade of the robot is going to change over time. So the first time they get a grade on the robot, it might be a not yet. Yes, which is equivalent to an F. Well, we feel that the not yet is really the message we're trying to give the student. Not that it's an F, not that it's a 55. That you're not there yet. Then the next time the student's evaluated on that same robot, that not yet may turn into a developing or an approaching, which is the equivalent to a C or a B until it finally reaches the max, which would be an A plus, 100. So we've moved away from numbers because it sends the wrong message to students. The letter grade system is more broad, and it takes the emphasis off of achieving because of a grade and putting the emphasis on learning because it's important to learn skills. Barbara, any anecdotes on that?
Yeah, I think along the way too, we've been transitioning from, like you're saying, Mr. Erlenwein, the grade to the effort and recognizing the effort that your child is making and celebrating that, because effort really says a lot more than just the A plus or the A or the B. And I know that some of the parents have already come to me, even freshman parents, with some of the small results that their child is not doing the A plus or, at least the A. And I think Mr. Erlenwein might approach this subject later on about how Staten Island Tech is a safe place to fail, if you will, or to do less than what you're used to seeing in your child, that it's okay. Because again, failure is part of life in all areas. And, not that we want your child to fail, but it might even be inevitable, not for everyone. So I think the celebration should be in the effort that your child is doing, especially in these first couple of weeks. Everybody's back to school, the COVID thing at home and remote working and all of that. Celebrate what your child is doing rather than looking for that grade, that first report card or that first progress. You're going on to certain sites to see what their grades are and scores and different things. But have a conversation and share with them how proud you are of the effort that they're making, in a very long time and over a couple of years anyway, that they are back in the seat, in a classroom and doing this tremendous amount of giving from themselves and effort towards learning in a classroom once again.
Thank you, Barbara. And yes, to echo Barbara's sentiments, the process is really what we're trying to focus on here. And what our teachers have been just doing an absolutely fabulous and spectacular job of is really rethinking what an assessment looks like and is supposed to be. And in many cases, replacing those assessments with something, I guess you can call it an alternative assessment, something that's more reflective of something that I have to do in the real world. Writing skills that are more geared towards the type of writing that they would do in a certain type of profession versus just writing for the sake of writing a paper, how to be persuasive, how to be argumentative. So we're really thinking about skills versus just grades. And part of that is being successfully implemented by really thinking about what kind of projects could we give students to work on that get them to learn the material the same way they would have learned it if we did it traditionally, which quite honestly, the traditional approach is not engaging. You didn't send your child to Staten Island Tech to sit there in a classroom and just be spoken to for 41 minutes without engaging. We have designed some of the best engagement experiences in and out of the classroom nationwide, and we've been recognized for that. Most recently, in the past 5 years, more and more and more, but doing something exceptional and especially well for our students. So, and part of that second chance that Barbara was just referring to is, in life, as we know as adults, you do get a second chance. You do get people make mistakes in the workplace. People make mistakes in all aspects of life, and so it really garnered the question, why does school always have to feel so punitive? You don't do so well the first time. Well, what if you had multiple opportunities to show that you know something? And that used to be a wish. Like, I wish I could go back and take that test all over again, or I wish I can go back and do that presentation all over again. But guess what? That's what we did. And that approach is called mastery-based learning, which focuses on multiple opportunities. So we're very quickly and broadly moving away as a school from that philosophy of one and done assessments. And in place of that, giving students the opportunity to have multiple chances. So what does that mean? So that means in the mathematics class, for example, they may not have unit exams anymore, but they'll have more frequently occurring quizzes, smaller assessments on smaller amounts of material. And let's say on one of those quizzes, they didn't do so well. So they will get the opportunity to reassess. So what we've done is implemented something called restorative assessment. So a student doesn't do well on a quiz, they can talk to the teacher and say, "I'd like to retake that quiz. I got a B minus, and I really think I could have gotten an A." Teacher has some thresholds that they've set up that they communicate with the students. Teacher arranges a time for the student during a lunch period or after school to take that reassessment, which they do. And basically, at that point, the student will get the newer grade based upon that assessment. And the teachers have the different policies around that. But the point is, and the belief in this philosophy is the pathway in which they're taking towards learning. What if they had a U-turn? What if they had that opportunity to go back? And that's what this does. This gives a student the opportunity to go back, get some assistance and help either from the teacher or on their own, to get a second chance, and in some cases, a third chance to make sure that they understand the material. The goal here is not to get 100. Okay, so there are some thresholds and some rules put in place to prevent this endless loop from occurring. So I don't want you to think that this creates an unhealthy, endless process. The goal is not 100. The goal is not perfection. The goal is just to give that second chance to make sure that they've learned enough to proceed to the next topic. So this really allows the learning process to be conducted at the student's pace. To facilitate this, because we know it's important to you that your child's not going to miss out on other classes because they're reassessing or retaking a test. So we created a restorative assessment center on the third floor of the building where the students can retake these assessments, like I said, during their lunch period or after school, as set up by the teacher. Okay, and this is done while they're being proctored. We have a staff member who's in charge of proctoring the students and making sure that the testing conditions are being conducted fairly. So now I want you to understand something. In all reality, students have bad days. Students, as you know, your children are involved in a lot of extracurriculars, sports. They're taking a lot of classes and challenging classes, and once in a while, they run out of time or they make a poor decision and they didn't have enough time to study. I want you to know that that is a plausible and that is a reasonable excuse for when a student does not is not ready to perform at their highest level. So they'll give it a shot. They might fail. They may not do as well. But that's one of the reasons why we instituted this, because since we've done this in the past, when a student ran out of time the night before, didn't study enough, or forgot, they'd resort to cheating. And then once they get caught, the ramifications of that are much worse than if they just did poorly on the exam. So since we've instituted this restorative assessment process, the frequency of cheating has decreased significantly. It has really changed the culture of the school and the relationships between the student and the teacher. The level of communication that is now occurring, it's a really honest, rich conversation that's taking place between the teacher and the students. It's a higher level of trust, and it's a more healthier conversation. And these are conversations I have as the boss, quote unquote, with all my teachers each and every day. I mean, everyone sometimes needs an extension. So we want to teach our students how to use their voice, their communication skills, to articulate that and ask a teacher, I need extra support, I need extra time. This is why. Understanding and realizing that there will be opportunities and times in their life where they just run out of time or run out of opportunities to stay on task. This happens in the real world, so we want to make sure that once again we're putting all these processes in favor of the student. So I'm seeing just a couple of questions here revolving around this topic. The question around, is there a formal process to request restorative assessment? The formal process is just to communicate with the teacher, to start a conversation with the teacher and verbally request it. And this is something that's being shared by the teachers to the students. So, what's required to make this happen? A conversation, as simple as that. It's just not going to magically happen. It's the choice of the student. It's not a mandate. It's a choice. It's not something that's always expected. And it does vary from teacher to teacher because the subject areas are vastly different. A technology course and a mathematics class and an English class all have very, very different types of assessments and ways in which a student would get a second or multiple opportunities or chances. Keep in mind that in an English class, There's a revision process, a feedback process to when a student submits a paper or some sort of project. So in some cases, that restorative assessment layer looks very, very different. So, and in all honesty, like this is something we've been working on for the past couple of years. And this is the year that our goal as a school is to normalize that process and really standardize what that looks like so we can articulate it and communicate it clearer to our students and family. Um, and I would say for some of you have come from school communities. There's not many that do this sort of thing already, and we're one of the few high schools that have made a point of totally revamping what assessment looks like. We don't want your children to equate school to this insane, miserable process of just constantly having to take tests and exams and projects. We're really trying to make the experience fun and memorable and truly based on learning versus always assessing. So we've really rethought what that looks like and what that feels like for our students and our families. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, the hardest um, part of this process has been communicating that to the parents. I think in some cases, our parents are thinking, oh, my child is going to school and they're just taking standard tests. And it's so not that anymore. It's a vastly different experience with a vastly different expectation. Perfection is not the goal, where I know that in some cases, from the family's vantage point, anything less than an A plus or an A is not considered successful. And I really want to implore and ask of you to think differently on that if that's the philosophy that you share. We're trying to create something here as a more healthy experience with the students. I don't want our students being put somewhere in the middle where at home there's a different expectation than there is at school. We share the same expectation, but I think what may vary differently is how we get there. So I just want to ask all of you to be flexible in your thinking about how we're assessing students and how we cultivate this love of learning versus this loathing of assessment. Okay. Barbara, anything else to add on that? I don't know if how much feedback you've gotten on that.
Yeah, well, I think what you're saying is exactly right with parents trying to align with what the students are expectations are at school. Sometimes can be vastly different, and therein lies the stress, and therein lies, maybe the feeling of cheating or the feeling of when they're at home not communicating with the parent because for fear of disappointing the parent. As you know, these kids are really wanting to please you, the parent, in what they do. But if they're feeling this pressure and they know in themselves they can't match up to it or reach that level of expectation, then they're going to act out. They're going to do all kinds of different things. And so what Mr. Erlenwein said is, let's all be on the same page. Let's have that same expectation from our students in school. And then when they go home, we're not saying to the parent, let it slide, let them get B's, let them fail, whatever. But let them find their way and let them find their level as they are experiencing high school and the difficulties of it for the first time. And the way that parents can support the student, as I said earlier, is the effort by recognizing the effort and the new skills that they're learning. They're learning a whole lot of new things here at Staten Island Tech. And I think one of the things Mr. Erlenwein just said is that we're kind of one of a kind, high school, doing things a little differently and actually differently and very successful as others are seeing what we're doing and recognizing it, if I could say nationwide, but certainly citywide. So it is that expectation, I think, that that is going to be new for the parent, the perspective from, what they're used to seeing and the performance that their child is doing.
Great. Thank you, Barbara. And in terms of what their child is doing, I thought I would just share with you very quickly and briefly. The graphic I have on the screen right now is our instructional focus. This is something I use with the faculty to kind of do a little bit of visioning around what our focus is and to make sure we all understand that focus. So the pathway basically represents the pathway that our faculty is going to be taking in their vehicle. And that their vehicle is a fancy little sports car there. And you'll notice on the license plate of the sports car, it says 21st Century Skills, and I love the 4 C's. But that's basically supposed to represent our instructional framework. The 4 C's are communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. So all of our lessons are structured around those 4 ideas to create an engaging experience for our students. You'll notice on the road is paved in something referred to as restorative practices, which basically means, like I was just explaining before with the assessment, giving students multiple opportunities to demonstrate that they've learned something or mastered something or approached competency in something. That might be an assessment, that might be behavior, that might be a skill that they have. So this whole idea of the expectation is not that you're perfect the first time you do something, and you might have to revisit this process and to restore or to get to that goal that you want to achieve. That's going to be conducted through restorative practices. And you'll see the little signs on the side here. Welcome to SELville. SEL is social emotional learning. And Root CRSE is cultural responsive education and sustaining education. So all that basically means is the way we're going to get our students to that point is by being really thoughtful about their social, emotional, and mental health, and making sure that when we're doing this, we're being mindful of the type of student that we have. We have high achievers. Different things matter to our kids than maybe other students in other school environments. So we're very cognizant and aware of that, and that's what that means. In terms of that bright sun in the sky there, our focus this year with the teachers is once again around building relationships to get to know our students well, fostering independence by building independent learners, and the idea of resiliency. So getting our students and our families to understand and realize that failure as an opportunity versus a final measurement. Failure is just a part of the process, and we call it resiliency and restorative because you're going to get opportunities to do better. How we're getting there and how we're measuring it is going to be through alternative assessments, project-based learning, and giving our students feedback, frequent feedback on how they're doing. Feedback does not always have to come in the form of a grade. Okay, it does not always have to be a grade. Sometimes they just need feedback on how they're doing, what they're doing well, what they need to improve upon. So I just wanted to kind of be clear in that. And you'll see the castle. The castle is representative of where we want to end up. But you'll see me behind the castle. The castle's aligned to the top of that mountain, right? There is a clear path to the top of that mountain. Staten Island Tech, we know how to get to the top of that mountain very well, and we visit it frequently and often. But it was important to me just to remind our whole school community that education does not have to feel punitive. Unitive versus punitive. That is the approach, and that's the feel that we're going for as a school community. So moving along, you'll find on our school website, and I'm not going to belabor it too much because you can reference it under the academics section on our school website. Our academic policy has our grading rubric there, which explains how the letter grades are calculated, how courses are graded. The GPA calculation is unweighted. We do not weight the GPA. So the number is out of 100 versus some schools go out of 108, which is almost absolutely meaningless because the colleges unweight your child's GPA. And I'm just being very honest with you. In a time when our grades were weighted, it created a false sense of security for some of our students. Like a student who thought they had 100 really had a 92. So the weighting that some schools do They use the weighting because they have honors kids amongst the main population. So schools that weight, they do that because they want the students who are accelerated to stand out. We don't have to do that in Staten Island Tech because every student is accelerated. We tell the colleges directly, and the colleges know all of our students are very special and take a very special academic coursework and experience. So there's no need to weight the GPA. So we stopped doing that years ago. And the benefit to it has been quite great because it's really given our students and our families a clearer picture of where they stand. And believe me when I tell you, and I hope this is coming through clear, there were times when a student who had a 99 or 100 average, it was really a lower 90 average. So that might have helped the morale. It wasn't a true bottom line number of where the student was at. So that's why in the grading policy, I also include the non-ranking policy. Because of the high caliber of our students, we don't rank. And because quite frankly, by the time your child graduates, the top 50 students in the class, the difference between their points, the difference between their GPA is a mere fraction of a point. So last year was the final year that we recognized the valedictorian and salutatorian. So moving forward, we won't be doing that any longer. We will have special speeches, commencement speeches at graduation, but we won't be formally recognizing the valedictorian and salutatorian. It does not align with the academic philosophy of the school that has evolved. Okay. Once again, here's the assessment schedule, which I talked about earlier. And on the back of the grading policy, you'll see our actual grading scale. So there's two buckets, 80% for learning progress and 20% for habits of success. Basically, it is our firm belief that everything counts. Okay, while some of the quizzes might be a little bit less weighted than others, the bottom line is everything counts. One thing is not less important than the other, but the process does count. Habits of success. So learning progress is everything from classwork, homework, quizzes, tests, projects, papers, essays, lab reports, all that stuff fall into one category. We found in the past by having all these different categories, 10% for this, 30% for that, the students gamed the system. It became a game. And it really took the emphasis off of what mattered most. So we just made it very simple. Habits of success is, I like to say, the artist formerly known as class participation. But we wanted to really drill down the class participation into specific. What we noticed is students, teachers across all subject areas had a different definition of what class participation was. So we decided to norm it and call it what it was, habits of success around engagement and responsibility. And we're very clear in our grading policy what that means, so what's expected of students. So we see this as a very easy way to demonstrate and hold students accountable for things that their job and their workplace setting in the future is going to expect of them. So all of that you can check up on the school website. So I want to, as we're approaching the first hour, and I want to start kind of coming to the close here, I do want to bring your attention to some of the other opportunities your child's going to have before them. So Staten Island Tech has developed one of the best work-based learning programs in the city, state, and I'd even go as far as say the country. So by the end of the 9th grade, your child will be able to get a paid or unpaid internship through Staten Island Tech. And when I say paid and unpaid, most of them are paid internships. So one of the courses that your children take, the Introduction to the Technology and Career Development, that course is taught by the Work-Based Learning Coordinator. You and your child are going to get a number of emails throughout the year that offer opportunities, especially as we get closer to next summer. you're going to see and hear about all these different opportunities for your child to do a paid internship, over the summer. Just to kind of give you an idea of what this means. So, like, if there's a career that your child is interested in, let's say engineering, let's say architecture, healthcare professional, your child does not have to wait till they go to college to try it out. In all truth and honesty, the colleges your children are going to, the tuition is costly. So if we can help as a school narrow down the ideas that your child has in terms of what they're going to major in, that's what's in our best interest. We want to see, and we're not saying that a child has to make their mind up in high school, what they want to be when they grow up. We want to do a better job helping them figure out what classes they have to take in their junior and their senior year and their sophomore year based upon what career they're thinking about taking. And the best way of doing that is to actually try it out. You might think you want to be an engineer, and then you try it out, and you learn that that's really not for some of our students. So these work-based learning experiences, I strongly recommend. This is something you urge your child to become a part of. A lot of high schools don't do this, and when your child's applying to college one day, and they're able to say, college admissions officer is going to ask them, what makes you think you want to be an architect? How do you know? And when a child can answer, well, I've done 2 years worth of paid internships in an architect's office. I know I really want to do it. I'm good at doing this. And it's something I want to explore further in your college. That's a powerful statement. Not all students can say that they tried something at a professional level and got paid for it before they went to college. So just to give you an idea how successful we've been in this venture around work-based learning, here's a report from last summer. So the summer of 2021, we had 402 students enrolled in paid internships. They worked 42,000 hours and earned $500,000 in income. That's income in the student's pocket, a paycheck for the students. During last school year, so from September 2021 to June 2022, we employed 317 students. That's for 22,000 hours for $300,000 in income. So that's a total of $837,000 last summer and last school year. If you add this past summer, the past 2 months into the mix, we employed 576 students this past summer for 62,000 hours for $730,000 in student created income for themselves. That's money in the student's pocket. You add that all up over the past year, that's $1.5 million in student income through our work-based learning program. So when I tell you we've really figured this out and been able to scale it to as many students who want it as possible, I mean it when I say it. New York City and New York State have recognized our excellence at conducting this program. And because of that, have offered us more money and more opportunities for students to participate in this program. For example, I want to share with you, this just came hot off the presses. You got an email this afternoon from Mr. Manzo about for some of our families and students who are interested in healthcare, the Staten Island Technical High School Future Ready Healthcare Initiative. I'm sharing the link here, but it's been emailed to you. I know that. And this is a program. I see a question like, how can my student do more with this, learn more about this? In Staten Island Tech, we have a career development center on the second floor. It's room 229. So the Career Development Center, I'll type that into the chat. It's room 229. We're one of the few schools in the state that have a career development center. Typically, colleges have these centers, and the point of the Career Development Center is to very simply help students explore career ideas and get internships and apprenticeships in different career areas with professionals. So we're aligning students with actual workforce partners in the real world. So this new opportunity is centered around Staten Island University Hospital, a Future Ready program. And just, I'm not going to go too deep into it because there is an email sitting in your inbox. But basically, because of the great success around our work-based learning program, our school has been selected by the New York City Department of Education to participate in a healthcare initiative that would engage students in coursework, professional discourse, and work-based learning in healthcare. Students will have access to monthly symposiums at the hospital, college and career exploration via classroom instruction and CUNY Explorers, access to college, special access to College Now courses, and meaningful work-based learning experiences in healthcare settings. So I won't go too much further and deeply into this, but I know a lot of our families, especially our students, have an interest in becoming a healthcare professional. So what better a way to start exploring that now? This is open to 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. So this is sitting in your inbox, and I encourage you to take a look at it to learn more about this very, very unique opportunity that Staten Island Tech students are getting, and especially our 9th graders. Okay, moving forward. I also wanted to point out at one point along the way, we don't currently have our comfort dog in the building, but one of the unique things that we did for the social, emotional health and well-being of our students is we were the first high school in New York City to have a comfort dog. So for about 3 years, we had a comfort dog in the building. Yeah, we don't know, we may get the comfort dog back. But it's been a very unique experience and something, a very Staten Island Tech type of thing. For our 9th graders, next Friday, actually, I'm sorry, next Thursday is the first Tech Connects. Tech Connects is a mentorship program for 9th graders and is conducted and facilitated by 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. So that's going to be on Thursday, October 6th at 1:43 p.m. And the Tech Connects basically it's really great. There's food, there's activities, there's games, and all the 9th graders are invited, and they get to meet other 9th graders and upperclassmen. If you notice your child's having a tough time making friends, this is an incredible way to get your child integrated into the school community and starting to meet other kids. Okay, so I strongly recommend you take a look at that. I've added this to the calendar. I will be sharing this next week, leading up until Thursday, hoping that many of our 9th graders take us up on it and attend it. That's just another view of Tech Connects when we ran it outside. On the website, I've already updated the landing page, which is accessible via the homepage of our school website with all the upcoming October calendar events. As I stated before, the Tech Connects is on Thursday during our faculty conference, so we're going to have to add that to the calendar. Some of you were asking about when is the club fair. Club fair is on Friday, October 7th, so that's in 1 week from tomorrow. And that's during the lunch periods. And we're having the fair outside. So after the students grab lunch, they can go outside and attend the fair and get to know about all the after school clubs and activities that we will have. And then later on that afternoon, we'll have a homecoming football game right after 9th period. So a lot of fun things coming up in October, as you can see. Spirit Week coming up, teacher retreat on Halloween. As the school year progresses, it becomes a very, very fun place for sure. So I hope what you're starting to see, all these different examples of how we've been trying to reduce the stress and really change what the high school experience is supposed to be like. And another way we've done that is through mindfulness and meditation. All of our 9th grade students will be experiencing health, and from time to time have a meditation Monday and a Gratitude Friday. There's lots of different things our teachers do. One of them being Miss Brown. This is just like a quick little a video of students in Miss Brown's health class as they're getting ready to go into a mindfulness and meditation session. In Miss Lang's class, they use a mindfulness and meditation bell. When the students feel as though things are getting too stressful, the student can ring the bell and the students stand up, they stretch, they take a deep breath. So these are just two examples of a lot of different things that our teachers do to bring the stress down levels in the classroom. A team of our teachers have gone on to become mindfulness and meditation certified and yoga certified. So these are, you're going to hear about all sorts of different things and practices that are happening in your child's class throughout the course of the year. And it's a real special thing. And I bring this up, mainly for the idea of, the successful pathway for the next 4 years is going to come down to how well your child balances all these different opportunities. And I think one of, the thing I think you've come to learn, we teach Russian, right? And Russian, da means yes, and niet means no. And as we're teaching our students mindfulness, we're also trying to teach our students how to say mindfully niet. Mindful niet, I like to call it. Mindfully saying no to certain things. They do not have to do everything. It is okay to say no. They do not have to be perfect at everything. So this idea of balance and mindfulness and really just taking things in stride in the interest of creating that balance is really what we're going after at Staten Island Tech. So I hope that makes sense. I hope this kind of ties everything together and exemplifies for you all the different ways that we've been trying to rethink and reimagine the high school experience. Barbara, before we go into the Q&A session, I know we kind of tackled a bunch of big topics there. Anything you want to add?
I'm inspired. I sit here. I've been at the school 20 years, and each and every day, I love it here. I hope what Mr. Erlenwein said does inspire you too. And the big thing I want to leave you with is the landing page. Mr. Erlenwein just spoke about it a few minutes ago, and you're getting Naviance email reminders to look at the landing page. And when you look at the landing page, it's like, oh my gosh, there's paragraphs and paragraphs and lots of information. Mr. Erlenwein has creatively designed the format. He's carefully and thoughtfully updates it weekly, bi-weekly, every few days. So I guess what I want to say now is that one way to thank him for doing so many great things for your kids is to kindly read, when he sends out that message on Naviance and says, check the landing page, and then he itemizes 3 or 4 things that were updated. Take a look at that, because that is rich with information that is sort of a need to know, and you need to know those things. For instance, one quick thing is the recently updated attendance policy. We don't have an attendance phone call anymore, phone or office, I should say. I'm sorry. So that attendance policy is really, really critical to take a look at on our website. And again, on our website, all the menus, the tabs, and the drop-down links and everything. If you can take time, I would encourage you, give yourself an hour. If you could take an hour out of your week or weekend coming up, is to just go over those tabs, the parent tab, the student life tab, with several policies that have been, carefully and thoughtfully put together through the school leadership team and different parts of administration. So all of that to say, there is so much for you to learn and to see on our website. And it never used to be that way. So Mr. Erlenwein has gone great lengths to make sure you are, as a parent, are not left behind. And even the students who are here with us tonight, not left behind. You need to, take a look at that. And then we can have a conversation, a more informed conversation about what's going on in the school and with your children. So I guess that is my final message to the parents, is to read that landing page. And if you don't understand something, or it's so confusing and there's so much, call me. I'll be on the phone with you. I'll go over it with you. We can go line by line, whatever it is, for the communication as well. And Mr. Erlenwein, I'm sure you're going to address the New York City Schools account, right, for grades and that sort of thing. So good. Okay, so thank you. I'll hand it back over to Mr. Erlenwein.
Thank you, Barbara. So just going to tackle some of the questions that some of you sent ahead of time. I thank you for doing that, because that allowed me to prepare some extra information for you. So first question, if my child needs extra help with a certain topic in class, is there tutoring available, or do teachers set aside some time after school for kids to come by and get extra help when needed? The answer to that question is yes. But once again, the best way to trigger that to occur is for your child to communicate with the teacher and let them know they need extra help. As the school year progresses, in the next month, we'll be posting the peer tutoring. Some of our best tutors are actually the students. It's always been more successful when the students are helping the students, and then the teachers help refine that process when extra help is needed. So stay tuned for that. But honestly, so the answer is yes. If you need to get extra help, teachers make themselves available when they have their free periods to assist our students. And many of our teachers will meet with students before the school day. And like I said, once we have a little bit more time where students start getting grades, there will be tutoring sometimes before school and after school as we see fit and where we identify that it's mostly needed. So the answer to that question is yes. Next question was, how do I reach out to my child's teacher if I have questions? I don't have access to Google Classroom. If I wish to meet to schedule a meet with my child's guidance counselor, what is the process? So once again, the Staten Island Tech landing page, I keep on emailing all of you pretty regularly. So the link is somewhere in your inbox, or just go to the school website. It's on the homepage, the 2022-23 school year info. You click on that, and one of the first things you'll see is that to contact us. But at the very top of the school website, where it says About Us, you can click on Faculty and Staff, or you can go to the school updates page, stay in touch, and you can access all of our school administration, our guidance counselors. All those people are accessible via that landing page. And so we've made sure that we've updated the staff, the faculty and staff directory. So you can reach via email any and all of those faculty members. And on the school updates page, the stay in touch section, all the assistant principals, my contact information, the guidance counselor's contact information are there, phone numbers and email addresses. So how you trigger that is, once again, by just reaching out to your child's guidance counselor directly, either via phone or email, and you can schedule an appointment if needed. Okay, that's always an option for you. Next question. My son sometimes wants to go to the library. However, he is often told that it is full and he cannot enter. What is the solution to this? I'll be very honest with you. The library can only hold about 50 to 70 students, depending upon how many adults I have to supervise the students. So it's a first come, first served basis. So the longer it takes you to get to the library, the less likely it is for your child to have access to the library. But at the end of the day, I do have to say, though, we are trying to create additional spaces in the cafeteria where students can do work if they wish to. And I really think it's important that your child has that opportunity to have a social life. Some of your children like to go on the phone, make a phone call to one of their parents, their friends. We're pretty open about that. We're trying to teach students how to responsibly use the technology, and more often than not, just socialize, not to use the technology during lunch. Your child can go outside. Your child can go visit a guidance counselor. Some of your children will sign up to become a teacher's assistant during the lunch period. So that there are other options other than just the library. I'm sure some of your children have a favorite teacher of theirs who maybe they could work with during a free period. So there's other options there, but more often than not, I would honestly recommend that a student tries to align this so they can have some time to socialize and just decompress. I see a question in the message board. Can students go to the library at their first period? Honestly, I'd have to say no, but we do not have enough room in the library to accommodate. There's a significant, there's approximately 400 to 500 students who don't have a first period. So we would not be able to accommodate that during period one. And to be honest with you, period one is really, I mean, we have classes that use the library during instructional periods. So it's really not intended to be a hangout. It's really intended to be a space where students are going to do research and conduct work. So they wouldn't be, that would not be the place the student goes to first period. They would stay in the cafeteria for that matter. Okay, question about the bus. So I just want you to know that I don't wait for you, the parent, to reach out to me to say that there's a problem with the buses. I know that there's a problem. I have to reach out in April and May and June to get something fixed for maybe September. So right outside the school on the corner of Lindbergh and Clausen, the S57 and the S79 are there at 2:45. So when the school day, when we dismiss students at 2:47, there are two buses usually waiting for our children. There's not always enough buses for all the kids. And to be quite honest, that really is kind of like a privilege. The bus stop is really down the block on Highland Boulevard. This is just something special we were able to do that the city offered us, so we take advantage of it while they offer it to us. What I have asked in a in a perfect world, if they gave us an S57 and an S79 in three waves at 2:15, at 2:55, and at 4:15. Those are the three different times that a lot of our students are dismissed from school or finish a club or after school activity. I don't expect to actually get that. That's what I asked for. I've also asked for increased service on Highland Boulevard after 2:47 p.m. And I've asked for increased service from Brooklyn, 86th Street and 4th Avenue to Ebbets Lane, S79 service. And just to kind of remind you, on Highland Boulevard, there are three different locations where students can get the buses. On the corner of Allison Avenue and Highland, there's the S78, S79. On the corner of Reno Avenue and Highland Boulevard, there's the S57 and the S78 and the S79. And on Highland and Oak, there's the S57, S78. And on Guyan Avenue, there's the S79. So there are four different options that students do have. If your child only uses one option, I can guarantee you it's always going to be crowded and they're always going to have to wait. So, so using those four options is really your best bet for giving your child the best opportunity to get home a little bit earlier. But I'm hoping that they do stay after school and take part in some of the extracurriculars. Next question, is there an anti-bullying campaign policy you can direct me to? If you feel your child or your child feels they're being bullied at any time, we have posters spread out all across the building for our Respect for All liaison. Posters that are clearly labeled, if you're being bullied, this is who you go to see. So Heather Brown, room C40, she's our Respect for All liaison person who handles the initial outreach with a student around bullying. Of course, your child can go to their guidance counselor or a teacher who they have a good relationship with to let them know that they're enduring this. So that's the first. So yeah, we don't tolerate bullying, but if we don't know what's happening, we can't do anything about it. There is a website you can go to, which I posted the link on the page, where you can report the bullying through this portal. and I'll get a report, and then we will follow up on it. So, those are the steps and the policies and the procedures you can go through if, if in case your child ever does have to experience that and go through that. So any updates on the grades and tracking system? And I see some other questions regarding that. So I'm gonna do two things here. If you weren't able to attend our PTA meeting on September 15th, I'm going to ask you to go to the landing page, the virtual meetings recording links, and click on the September 15th link. About an hour into the presentation, I start to talk and I address this in depth. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about it now. But the bottom line is no school has access to the online grading portal. The Department of Education has made a decision to not allow us to use the portals that you've all grown up, your children have grown up using, and you've grown accustomed to using. So as a solution right now, the grading app that the Department of Education is using is still in its experimental stage. I don't feel, having 25 years in education technology experience and working directly with developers, I'm working with the Department of Education and helping them develop this tool. I'm telling you, it is not ready yet. I don't trust that system to use our children's grades yet. So you really only have one option, and this is the same option that every other school has right now, and that's to use Google Classroom and the Google Gradebook. So I'm encouraging you to be able to sit down with your child maybe once a week and ask them to show you their grades, or give you their username and password so you can look at their grades yourself. That is the easiest way to do it right now. I am hopeful that by February, I did say February, the Department of Ed will have stability in their system where we can transition to the grading app. And we will be piloting it with a limited number of teachers in the interim between now and February. I do not trust the system to ask all of our teachers to use it yet. It has not been tested. I fear it will give a false depiction of how our children are doing and cause more harm than help. So we have been using Google Classroom for a good solid 11 years as a school. We went one-to-one 11 years ago. So we know how to do that really well. So I would encourage you to have your child sit down with you and have them show you their grades and their progress on Google Classroom. And I'm being honest with you, it's only week 3. There is not much to show yet. And with less of an emphasis being put on assessment and really grinding students with assessment, you shouldn't expect to see too much yet. That will build up, but give it time and just bear with us as we're getting through this. We're always on the cutting edge of technology and learning management systems. Please have trust. Communicate with Barbara if you're concerned about this, and we'll do our very best to comfort you and make sure you understand how we're going to progress in doing this. We're in the same boat as every other school in New York City right now. Right at this moment, there is no parent or student facing way of your child seeing the grades other than Google Classroom. So that is the solution. That's the only answer I have for our families and our students right now. So please sit down with your child and have them show you or share with you their information. And once again, I addressed this pretty deeply in the PTA meeting video link here. Okay, so I encourage you to take a look at that. And once again, I think I already addressed this enough, the restorative assessment process. You have that as a safety net if you're concerned about how your child is doing. So I encourage you to encourage your child to maintain that communication with your children's teachers so they can, they have a partner in this process. I think I already answered the question when the club fair will be. It'll be next Friday, October 7th, during the 4 lunch periods. So all of our students should have an opportunity to visit that. And that's honestly, we're hitting the hour and a half mark here. I don't want to. I applaud your hanging with us this long at this point. Are there any other additional questions that any of you want to throw into the comment section? I think we addressed most of the larger topics that come up. Uh, okay. Uh, any other questions that you guys might have? Like I said, I think we hit a lot of the major topics out and about. Once again, I hope that was what was communicated and received tonight was an understanding around what we're doing and continue to do with your partnership and really rethinking what school feels like and what that experience is going to be like over the next 4 years for your child. You're going to have a voice in helping us refine that. So keep a lookout for other opportunities with Barbara and myself to come together as parents and guardians of your children and to give us feedback on how things are going. And please don't hesitate ever to reach out to us. I give my email address so you can use it. So use it. I give out Barbara's email address so you can use it. We're intentional about how accessible we want to be. And we take the job that we do seriously. It's a passion of ours, and we care a lot about it. So I don't see any other questions popping up, but I do want to thank those of you who joined us tonight. And for those of you who will be watching this another night on demand, the link is already posted in the recorded link section of the school website. So this is readily accessible for you. So I hope this is really helpful. Barbara, are there any final words you have for our parents?
Actually, just one final thing is let's not forget about the PTA. I feel remiss if I didn't say anything about parents getting involved in any way with the PTA through the bake sale, through fundraising efforts, whatever it may be. Certainly stay in touch. They'll be emailing you about various activities and events coming up. And just find your way into volunteering and giving whatever portion of time, an hour a day, months, whatever you can do to assist us in the process of making it a great place for your child to be each and every day. So thank you for coming tonight. I look forward to getting your emails and calls. I'm ready for your questions, whatever they may be. So thank you again and welcome.
Yeah, I echo that same sentiment. And I know I've already shared with each of you instructions on how to update your contact information in Nixa. So I'm just throwing that up on the screen one last time really quickly here. Please, if you haven't already, go through this process of putting your mobile phone number and your email address and your home phone number on the New York City Schools account website. The messaging app that we will be using will be used. We will need your most current contact information in order to successfully use this system. So, and we're desperately trying to streamline how many different systems you need to log onto so we can communicate with you. Yeah, and just I just saw a quick comment there by if the kids on sports teams would practice after school daily, studying late is unavoidable. Absolutely. But I have to say, the students who are on sports have some of the best time management practices. So while, yes, studying late is unavoidable, the restorative assessment plan is intended. I love how perceptive you are. Yeah, this is exactly one of the reasons why we put this process and plan into play. Because we want our kids to be able to play. We know they work hard. We also want them to play hard, but not at the expense of the work and the success that comes with the work. So yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. I'll take that as a sure sign that the message is being received tonight. That's exactly, you're exactly right. That's what we're trying to do. So, all right, folks, thank you and good night. I appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you hopefully in person soon. And once again, for a similar reason. Have a wonderful night and happy Friday's Eve. Good night, Barbara.
Good night. Good night, everyone.